HAFIZ TV, unique every day.
I said, I cannot supervise something like this. It's against my belief, against my ethics, everything I have lived for. Because I have lived through poverty. I know what it is to be poor. My mother, she's still alive. She's still alive. I've seen her walk from Medina to Tema station as a head porter. Sometimes she goes and she never comes back. For days. So things like that touches you. So your actions on the board, your actions as MC, your actions as a budget officer at the ministry, how do you prioritize your spending? What comes first? Is it training or people's survival? Is it allowances in the boardroom? What is it that you're prioritizing? Put humans first. And I believe as Muslims, once we live the faith, I'm sure we'll be good politicians, we'll be good leaders. It's only when we don't live the faith that we find ourselves wanting. The Quran will always guide you. You always be guided by the Quran. There is a saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's hadith. He said, "An Abi Sa'id Khudri radiyallahu anhu قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان." This hadith has been there hundreds of years before. If you see something, say something. Whoever see an evil, let him change it with his hand. Something is lying where it's not supposed to lie. You can go there and move it, or take steps to make sure that it doesn't harm anybody. If people are engaged in fight, you can go in there and be the peacemaker. But if you're not able to do so with your hand, then do so with your tongue. Speak about it. If you see something, say something. But if you are not able to do so with your mouth either, because there are certain times that opening your mouth could be dangerous in some countries, in some environments, then you should do so with your heart. Let your heart condemn it. Don't entertain it in your heart. But the Prophet said that is the weakest form of Iman. May Allah not put us in that category. So we've always been asked to act civil, to say the right things, to change things, to stop evil in society. It is very important we cherish these principles of Islam and live Islam. Let me now digress a bit within the same scope of what we've been talking about. It is very difficult in this country to do the work I do if you haven't lived a life of upright. Why did we or did I enter into opinion polling? You see, opinion polls are very, very important tools for our democracy. It enables people to know the views of others. Polls are not just about elections. It's about anything the society cares about, worries about, want to know about. How many of us believe that in the next 12 months we will feel better, the economy will get better? How do you know if you don't go out and poll? If people are not happy with your governance, it's only the polling that will reveal those who are not happy with you. Those around you, believe me, they won't tell you. They will not tell you. And it is very difficult in the sense that some people believe that to do opinion polls, you must have been paid by someone to do it. And that person paying you certainly is the one who is telling you what to say. But I had a philosophy that I wouldn't want to take a penny from any politician. So I will invest my own personal savings in the business. The aim is to do it right, truthfully, and honestly. And when we have done that, our name will go far. And that we will get other businesses that will enable us to be independent of any politician. So what we did was to build the brand. When it comes and party A is ahead, they sing hallelujah for you. When next time they are behind, they insult you. But stay the focus. So long as you know what you are doing is the truth, stay the course. So we did that over a period of, say, 2 years. And then a foreign company saw what we were doing and gave us a contract to work for them, to do work for them. And that work we did for them gave us the foundation and the capacity to continue doing what we are doing. So what we do, we call it corporate social responsibility. As a company, we must give back something to society. And we believe that knowing what we do, the opinion poll will be what we can afford to give the country. And when we first started in 2019, we were approached by a politician that he wanted to fund us. We said, no, we will survive it. We want to be able to say A and it's A, and B and it's B, without fear. We never took the money. We persevered. And in fact, to a point where I was saving for my daughter's school, and all the money almost went down the drain into the project. But luckily, alhamdulillah, just 6 months before she went to school, we get the contract and we got a job. And Allah had been faithful to us. We, at every point in time, every 90 days, come to the Ghanaian people and tell them what is going on. It's unfortunate that people focus on election matters, but we carry so many issues that we bring to the attention of the public that people don't spend time looking at it. We look at people's standard of living. What is getting worse is improving. We look at people's perception about corruption. In fact, in the current one we've just done, we looked at people's perception about the police and their ability to provide security in the election. We are tracking that. How confident do people have in the police? That will come out next week. What confidence do the people have in the EC the state institutions that has mandate to run the elections. We are bringing that out. And the beauty of this is that when EC is not doing well in the eye of the public, we pick it in the data. And when they are doing well, it shows. So they can see how they are doing as things move along. In the past, they've been seen as a lot of people didn't have confidence in them, but we've seen an upward tick in that confidence for the EC. Nobody else would have told them that if we hadn't gone to the country to ask them. And this would be something that would boost the morale of the commissioners to do what the public believe they want them to do. As police, people have confidence in them now than they used to. What is being done differently now compared to what it was done before? It means what is being done now should be continued. And when we report this regularly, the IGP and his people will hear this. And that will be a motivator. And we can give the breakdown by region. So we can see in which region the police have lower confidence. In fact, the IGP could call the regional police commander that this is the views of people in your region. Across the country, we are doing well, but your region and that region not doing well. What can you do about it? This is one of the civic responsibilities we are doing as a company, as a Muslims, to ensure that this country stays on the right path. Now, we must be loyal to the state. When we say loyal to the state, when nobody's looking at you in the contract situations, do you stand for your country or you stand for your pocket? Loyalty is not by singing the national anthem and pledge. It's about doing it, acting it. When nobody was looking, when you had the chance to steal from the public, you said, no, I would not. Because I know the impact of corruption on my people. I know how much 5,000 Ghana cedis could do to people's lives in many parts of this country. If I take it, what does it mean? And in fact, corruption in public service is the biggest sin in Islam. See, you take someone's money, just one person's money you've taken. You stole from the state. You have taken from the 32 million people. And al-akhirah, you'll be hearing voices asking you to refund the money. It's not yours. The money that could have been used to provide drinking water has been squandered by those with authority and power and the budget. We look at schools under trees for several years. I was part of a team that did an assessment of financing gap for infrastructure in Ghana. I think in 2016, the World Bank commissioned a project to assess Ghana's infrastructure financing gap, to see, looking at government funds, private funds, and what we need. What is the gap? At the time of the report, our annual funding gap was about $5 billion US per annum. And most of it were in the area of health and education. And these are the areas that really uplift the life of our people. Because Islam says we should seek knowledge if it's in China. So we must put money in education. And I think it's a wonderful thing that the president had free education policy implemented to make access to grant access to many people who would not otherwise have access to education. But there are challenges. We can't pretend all is well. Let's address those challenges so that we will give our people better education. Health. You will not have enemy until you see that when you are sick. When you are sick, that is the biggest enemy you have. When you are sick, what do we have to take care of our people? What are the health systems we currently have? Are they resilient? Are they affordable? How do we prioritize buying medicines? How do we make it affordable? And that's where paying our taxes comes in. When you pay taxes, those taxes will be used to procure those medicines for people who are aged, to pay for education, and so on and so forth. So as Muslims, we must pay our taxes, besides our zakat. It's very important we do that. It's sometimes disheartening that you see Muslims in leadership and that their faith does not reflect in what they do. We're not perfect, not at all. But in the little that we can, let's make a difference as Muslims. Let's be the torchbearers of the young ones to come. Alhamdulillah, we now have a lot of scholars among ourselves. Muslims can boast of good scholars. But there's one thing we have not been doing: going back to the roots and engaging our people and let them know that, look, there are people you can look up to who are Muslims, who have gone through the same life as you are doing, and that you can make it. Sometimes when you go back to our communities, the Zongos and the deprived areas, there are other Muslim brothers and sisters who would like to have nothing at all to do with them because they've progressed, they've advanced, they are on a different level now. But, you know, what is the benefit of what you have become if you can't change the lives of people who have left behind? A society that leaves people behind is not a good society. You must bring people along. We may not be able to do all because naturally all things are not the same. But we must be able to provide the basic minimum of life. And I've said to people that if you are a Muslim, I think you practice a good religion if you are somewhere in Europe. To be very honest with you. Because a lot of prayers that you pray is not to survive. I watched a video TikTok quite recently, a young Muslim boy saying prayers, very beautiful voice. All the prayers he was asking for is food, brutukal, macaroni. Because for him, that is the most important thing. We must be able to build a society where meals don't become a privilege, but a right. You must eat. And then our prayers will change and we'll begin to act differently in a way that is more developmental. People are thinking about what to eat, how to survive. How can they think or learn? So we have a lot to do as a country, as Muslims. We must always seek to reconnect back to our people. No matter how small it is, make yourself available when you are called upon. Sometimes, not because you have nothing to do, but because your presence can be an inspiration for someone. I remember when I was a little boy, probably around 1986, and we had the Islamic convention held in Achimota School by the World Assembly of Muslim Youth then. I remember, I don't know whether Sheikh Gadal remembers that event. I was one of the people that was sent from Medina, Sheikh Hamis Madrasa, to go and attend that program. And the most interesting aspect of the camp was that the food was good. This one was held at Achimota Secondary School. The school had vacated and we had the whole school to ourselves. The food was very good. Coming from Zongo, where you have kosi and masa and this thing. This time in the morning, they fry egg for you, they do tea. Subhanallah. And above all, there were lectures from Islamic scholars, including Gadel, Sheikh Gadel. And also there was another doctor called Abdullah Bochwe. I don't know whether he's still alive. We were then small, we were just tiny, and listening to lectures, and they were the people who inspired us. In fact, from that lecture, from that camp, was when I told my father that I want to go back to school. So I realized that I couldn't just be Makaranta and be like Abdullah Bochwe. And I said, no, I have to go back to school. So there are people, when we see them in our midst, inspire us. We should do a lot more to re-engage, to reconnect with our people, inspire them, give them hope. We can't do everything, but when they call upon you, don't turn your back. It's fulfilling to see that you are making a difference in people's life. In this world, what at all do we need? You know, when I used to be in the UK, and you see people going extra mile just so that their names will be on a plaque of a building, not because of what he will be paid, that he contributed in making this happen, and that's all they wanted. I was fortunate to get a job I got in London. It was bi'Iznillah. I was the first black man in that department. And when I was going for the interview, I would have time, I met a Nigerian man in the lift. Usually in London Underground, the blacks are either ticket officers, station officers, train drivers, supervisors. So when he saw me in the lift, he pressed 3rd floor, and I pressed 10th floor. Then he pulled back, look at me. And the headquarters was near New Scotland Yard, the same road, Broadway. And he asked me, young man, where are you from? I said, I'm from Ghana. And what are you doing here? And I said, I'm coming for the interview. On the 10th floor? I said, yes. Then said, let me pray for you. So I stood, and the man prayed for me that whatever I'm going to do there, may Allah make me succeed. And after going through the interviews, we were left with 2 people, one French guy from SG, he's a banker, and myself. And then they said to us at the end that they were going to hire one person, but they will end up hiring 2 of us. It's okay. So we were hired. And then when we started work, I realized I was the only black man there. Then my mind came back to the old man that was praying for me. And when you are a black man in a department, the burden is heavier. But you're not just yourself. You are carrying the burden of the black race. And that is how I felt. You can't afford to fail. And beside that, I happen to be a Muslim. And it wasn't long before the landing bombings of the underground. And the guys who were involved were Muslims. The pressure became so enormous. But look, a true Muslims wouldn't do what they did. And we stepped up as Muslims in the company. In fact, we were deployed in the front line. We left our cozy offices, wore the vest, came to the platform, and helping people out. Everybody, including the MD. That's the spirit of the white people. When there's crisis, nobody is boss anymore. We all come down to support. And you live and work as a Muslim, as a black man, you leave a legacy. By the time I left, we had more than 5 black people in the department. Yes. If you are a Muslim, you are carrying the shoulder, you are shouldering Muslim community on your shoulders. When you do things right, you send a signal, a message that Muslims, this is how we're supposed to behave. No matter what the others do, that is not Islam. So we're supposed to live a life that is civil, that is loyal to the country, and be able to be role models in our society. We have no excuse any longer. We have the men too. But let's get more involved in our communities. Let's try and bring our people along. Let's try and support initiatives that bring people out of poverty in our communities. Because when you do that, the whole society benefits. We're able to uplift most people from poverty, and then the Rasulullah will go down. When you empower people, they would empower themselves. And it's very important as Muslims we do this. I won't take much time, but there are verses in the Quran that tells us to be good citizens. To be good citizens. In conclusion, as people of the faith, as Muslims, our responsibility as citizens to our country is multifaceted. It encompasses not only to obedience to the laws of the land, abide by the laws of the land, uphold the Constitution, but also actively contributing to the well-being of our society. You can't sit on the fence. You can't say you will not vote. It is our civic responsibility to express our preferences through the voting system. No matter how disappointed you think you are, sitting at home is not the best option. In some countries like Australia, not voting is a criminal offense. You go to jail if you don't vote, unless you have an excuse from voting. And I think, together with the NCC, we should help them to educate our people, to take part actively in the party politics decently, honestly and truthfully, and also to promote peace and harmony among ourselves. Muslims, Christians, whatever religion we belong to, does not matter. We are one people. Let's try and accommodate each other's views. It doesn't matter how divergent that view is. Be tolerant. As-sabr. As-sabr. Sometimes people will provoke you to a point. Remember Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, is the most patient man. If you want to live a life of Muslim, then he's the best example you have. On this note, I will bring this small talk to an end and allow my chairman to take over. Assalamu alaikum.
Border on our work. And every morning when I hear your name on radio as a poster and you predict so creditably, it makes me so happy because it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of values, especially some of the values that he has spoken about, right, to be able to make predictions. A lot of people have done polls in this country and today they can't even hold up their heads as posters. So we are so proud of you. And secondly, this evening you've done our work. In some countries you should have presented a bill to us to pay. You spoke extensively and quoted the Quran and the Hadith. And as I see it as the head of programs at NCC, I'm wondering whether those things, the tool of trade, what we use to teach civic education is the Constitution. And I was wondering, look at how these things that we've been talking about have been explained in a much succinct way in the Quran that was revealed 1,400 years ago. And it was only in 1992 that we have brought out these values in terms of rights, responsibilities, and so on and so forth. But a touching aspect of it all, for me, is the word of the chairman. How do we practicalize these things? Because Islam should not be about pious declarations. We are peaceful. Islam means peace. It should reflect in our ways of life. And every morning as a Muslim and also as the director for programs at NCC, when I'm going to work, I'm nervous. Not that because I can't do the work, but all the civic issues that we are talking about and the challenges therein are mostly found in my community. That makes me nervous. I'm proud. How was I able to rise to be in charge of programming civic education for the whole of the country? And how do I then juxtapose that with what happens in my community? And it is not about us who are here. It is about raising the critical mass. If you say Islam is like this, it is not about that value reflecting in 1 out of 10 Muslims. It's not about the values of Islam, good neighborliness, so on and so forth, being espoused. When we talk about civics and we talk about the Constitution, our Constitution has so much elaborate arrangement for a relationship between citizens and the state. The citizens have a duty and they say, don't do acts that is detrimental to your fellow human being. And you come to the Hadith. The Hadith has explained this thing in much more detail than any other law can do. To the extent the Prophet tells us, when you are even putting up a building, don't put it in such a way that it will cover the air that will enter your neighbor's house. Is that not the case?
Building permits.
You know, how can this be explained in any other law? And these are what values that Islam has taught us. And for me, I always say when we meet here, it is not about those of us here. Those of us here are the ones, most of us in public service, in somehow gainful and paid employment. It is about our colleagues, the masses outside. We go to the lorry station. Our young men who ride motorbikes now. We are going into an election. And last 2 weeks I was at Ashama. A forum was held, we spoke. And the chief, he wasn't the chief, the prince, one of the things he said, he wasn't a Muslim, but he was invited as a special guest. The profound remark he made was that for 2024 elections, Muslims, the whole Ghana is looking at you. Why? Because of the forerunners in the election. Where are they from? Who are they? So we are pleading that those of us here, we should be able to touch base with our communities in a more practical way. How do we do that? Imam Abbas spoke about our upbringing, the Makaranta, and what we learn aside the Arabic in the Makaranta house was marvelous. Today, Imam Abbas is here. My good self here, he talked about gwaza. Gwaza was the food that you didn't need money to buy. We have to, in Kofodia, we have to go into the backyard and dig and eat. And this was not done because we were not, our parents didn't like us, like they have thrown us away. But that was a part of the Islamic education. Every dawn, you wake up at 3 a.m., you go and fetch water. And it was these things that inspired us. When we went to school, we got to the university, we were different. We understood things much better. Why is it that whenever we are having elections and all the violent things, Muslim communities, and this year, before I hand over the mic, I would like to speak passionately about, for example, our city of Boko, the unfortunate thing that is happening there. I have 3 memorable occasions about Boko. Boko used to be the citadel of business in the north, and it was the city of Islam. I was young, my grandfather took me to Boko. We slept, the first time I slept on a carpet as soft as this, in a rich man's house. I didn't go to Boko after that experience until I was in the secondary school in the 90s. We decided to go to Boko because it was a vibrant city. A city, I mean. We got there, we stopped at Isabella, we bought guinea fowls, we drank water from the calabash, all of us drinking together. And the calabash wasn't a symbol of poverty. It was a pride of communal way of life. And that was the 90s. Since then, I had never been to Boko until 2014. I was working. I went back to Boko. By then, there had been war. And I saw a house with a mat spread to cover the windows. And I asked, which house was that? And they mentioned the name of the owner of the house. And I cried. Because that was the house when I was young, had air conditioning, and we stepped on almost 6-inch carpet in that house. The war had ravaged it down. Boko was desolate, and young persons were looking for the next track. So, if we have anything that we can offer this country, this coming election, it is peace. And that peace should come from Muslims. This election should come and pass devoid of any violence. Whatever happens, my elder brother has spoken about sabr, patience. That is what should be our guiding principle. For us, NCC, we are everywhere, and you'll be meeting some of our staff in the field. And wherever you meet us, we plead that you join hands with us. A lot of our staff are not Muslims, but I encourage them to enter into our communities. So I'll plead that wherever you meet them, you give them the necessary assistance so that together we can do the civic education. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
HAFIZ TV, unique every day.